Shalom. Shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, okay, which is also known as the house of David. And right before I get into my lesson, I want to start off by giving all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone that teach and that rule well today. And peace and salutation also to the fellow laborers that's in the ministry and the believers that scatter worldwide in all truth and sincerity, day in and day out. Once again, I'm the brother Shaquat Gabar, coming at you with another quick lesson. And this lesson or this message or these videos goes out to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which we are the true biblical Hebrew Israelites, according to the Bible. And also to the Israelite foreigners that are scattered amongst the heathen nations and that may take on a physical appearance or look of another nation. But if your bloodline goes back to Negro, Latino, or Native American descent by the seed of your father, you are considered an Israelite as well. Once again, Shalom. So basically, this lesson is going to be about, like I say, open up with, okay, when it comes to the house of David, okay, which is also known as the elect, okay, when it comes to the 144,000 and the 1/3 that destined to be saved, according to Revelation chapter 7 and Revelation chapter 14, okay. But the elect, okay, when it comes to many titles, okay, the elect is also known as the house of David, okay. And when it comes to the elect, the number that we hopefully that we part of, us that's been called in the faith and as part of the ministry, okay, we know eventually Lord going to deliver only the elect. Because at this time, 2/3, according to Zechariah chapter 13, verse 8, going to be cut off and judged, okay, as we coming into perilous times now, when it comes to Jacob's trouble, Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7, and leading to the downfall of this place America, okay, which this place America is known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures, and it's prophesied of its coming destruction, which this place eventually going to be destroyed at the peak of the Third World War by thermonuclear missiles, okay, and also leading to the time of who the world ignorantly called Christ, Yahweh Shai, second coming by the way of the chariots, or what the world called UFOs, okay, which are the vehicles of the angels and the salvation of the elect, okay, the chariots of Israel, okay. And like I say, and when Yahweh Shai return, he's going to establish the kingdom of Israel here on the earth, okay, and we're going to rule over the heathen nations, start with the biblical Edomites, so-called white race, okay, mainly the elites that's going to escape the damnations of the missiles, and the heathen nation that remain after the aftermath of the Third World War, that's going to be reserved for captivity, okay, which is going to issue in the kingdom of Israel, which by default the kingdom of Yahweh Shai, okay, that was given to him by the Heavenly Father Yahweh, okay. And like I said, the elect being joint heirs, starting with the elect being joint heirs, and the Lord eventually going to raise up David again, okay, the rule in the kingdom up under Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, or under Yahweh Shai, okay, which we know Yahweh Shai title, okay, one of his titles is King of Kings and Lords of Lords, and eventually all Israel, okay, start with the men, going to be kings, okay, but at this time starting with the elect, and the Lord going to have David being anointed or being appointed to be the king, the everlasting, one of the kings, okay, to rule in Israel, the top king besides Yahweh Shai, okay. But right now we're building the house of David, okay, and eventually, like I say, the Lord going to raise up the elect, and when it comes to out of all the Israelite camps, mainly the men of Great Millstone, always push the house of David when it comes to the elect, okay, that's going to be the ones that's going to rule, and David their king, okay, our king that's going to be set up again, okay, which we know the process of reincarnation, okay, because we know that when it comes to Peter, okay, the head disciple, he was David in his past life, okay, and we at this current time, when it comes to back during the time of One West, okay, when it comes to the Hebrew Israelites during the time of One West, okay, we know that King David came back as Marshal or King Marshal. Okay, me personally and other brothers, okay, that that follow through the Spirit and the apostles and elders, okay, when it comes to the history and their teaching, okay, when it comes to the scriptures, we know that everything is reincarnated, and the Lord had brought David back in his time, okay, starting the time of One West, okay, and like I say, starting with the apostles and elders, or Great Millstone, they always been pushing that when it came to King Marshal, that he was King David in his past life, okay, which now currently, okay, he's in the spiritual realm, okay, but eventually he's going to be resurrected right along with the rest of certain members of the elect or the house of David that have, died in the faith, okay, and they're going to be the first ones risen up when Yahweh Shai return to establish the kingdom as a whole, okay, here on the earth. And so that's why I'm going to start off with Hosea chapter 3, verse 4, okay. And so eventually the Lord is going to set up David again to rule, okay, under the authority of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai and the rest of the elect, once again, as the house of David, okay. Because the 2/3, like I said, they're going to be judged, and they're going to have to come back in the kingdom, being sons and daughters of the elect, okay, of the house of David, okay. But us are the hopeful elect, okay, we're looking and hopefully to be of the elect in the first resurrection, okay, or be part of the house of David, okay. When it comes to the elect part. But this is Hosea chapter 3, verse 4. For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image, and without an ephod, and without the teraphim. Okay, going into, we fell from our inheritance. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4. We could discontinue from our inheritance to the point that we got put into captivity, scattered amongst the heathen nations, have the curses upon us, according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 16 through 68. Okay, we know about the Atlantic slave trade at this time. Okay, the enslavement of the Hispanics, Latinos, and Native American tribes. Okay, which are Israelites once again. And we know what happened, during the separation. Okay, after Solomon reign. Okay, the split. Okay, that goes into Second Esdras as well. Second Esdras chapter 13 verses 39. Okay, when it came to the split. Okay, but now we're in the time that we coming back to being gathered together through the Spirit. Okay, when it comes to this calling, when it comes to the Hebrew Israelites, when it comes to the 12 tribe chart. Okay, and it says, after shall the children of Israel return and seek the Lord their power, and David their king, and shall fear the Lord and his goodness in the latter days. Yeah, in the latter days. So this proof right here, okay, that David came back reincarnated in these times, because we're in the latter times now, or the latter days. Okay, that's why I make mention through the spirit of Yahweh Shai, starting with apostles and elders, on down, giving us the history of One West, okay, that through the spirit that King Marshal, okay, had to been King David in his past life, okay, and it's all spiritual, like I say, and eventually King Marshal, okay, gonna be resurrected, okay, and be appointed king again up under Yahweh Shai, okay, right along with the rest of the elect, okay, once again, the house of David, okay. Let's get this. Let's get on Amos chapter 9, verse 10. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, and that's the 2/3 at this time, will say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. Yeah, because majority of our people are non-believers, and they're not going to accept the truth. Okay, when it comes to the prophets. Okay, so the 2/3 of our people are going to be judged in this time. Okay, verse 11. And in that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. Okay, going to the tribes. Okay, when it comes to the so-called his Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, once again the tribes come back together. Okay, it was a split. Okay, but in this time, through the Spirit, the Lord has gathered eventually the house of David, or the elect again. Okay, to appoint it salvation and to the rule when Yahweh shall return. Okay, and establish the kingdom. And it says, and close up the branches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. Okay, because during the time of David, okay, in the time of Solomon, okay, before the kingdom of Israel fell in the ancient times, we ruled over all nations, man. Okay, and it's going to be that way in the kingdom. We're going to rule over all these heathen nations, but in a more greater fashion. Okay, because our kingdom is going to be an everlasting kingdom, and it's never going to fail or fall again. Okay, and we're going to be immortal. Okay, the new covenant going to be introduced or implemented. Okay, or taking place when it comes to the new covenant, the law, statutes, commandments in our inward parts, according to Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 31, Hebrews chapter 8, starting at verse 6. Okay, and these mortal bodies being changed to being immortal. Okay, First Corinthians chapter 15. Okay, that chapter. Okay, and we're going to be, as the scripture says, as we are as a nation, Israel. Okay, in Hebrew, Yasharala, he prince of God, or he prince of power, and we're going to have the power to rule over all these heathen nations, man. Okay, and they're going to be subject unto us. Okay, and they're going to have to follow our ways, according to Isaiah the 2nd chapter. Okay, if not, they're going to be judged. Okay, because we're going to rule over them. Start with David. Okay, well, Yahweh Shai, then David. Okay, yeah, but now we in the time that the Lord is gathering together the elect, or the house of David, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai, and understanding the truth that's going to lead to salvation and rulership. Okay, and we're going to receive crowns. Okay, also the hopeful elect. Second Esdras 2, starting at verse 40. Okay, Esdras saw the elect men receiving crowns after the salvation from Yahweh Shai. Okay, after the deliverance and the kingdom being established. Okay, let's get this. Zechariah chapter 12, verse 7. The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. Yeah, because Judah is the head tribe, which David came out of. Okay, the tribe of Judah. Okay, right along with Solomon. Okay, and eventually Yahweh Shai. Okay, and the tribe of Judah today are the so-called Negroes. Okay, the head tribe. Okay, so that's why you're seeing start with the tribe of Judah. Okay, because as our apostle elders always go into, or the apostles elders of Great Millstone always go into, during the time of One West, it was mainly known that the so-called Negroes that was woken up into the faith first, okay, or Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, okay, which Judah, like I say, the so-called Negroes, okay, Benjamin, the so-called West Indians or Jamaicans, and Levi, the so-called Haitians, okay, which make up the Southern Kingdom, okay. And throughout the process of time, you had the Northern Kingdom, okay, that was woken up, okay, when it comes to Hispanic, Latinos, and Native American tribes, man, okay. And now to the point, the Israelite foreigners, when you got Israelites that scattered amongst the heathen nations and may take on the physical appearance of the heathens, okay, but if their bloodline, once again, go back to Negro, Latino, Native American descent, and they believe in the truth through the Spirit, they're Israelites, and all of the elected, okay, is going to be gathered by the way of this word, okay. Once again, the house of David, okay. So ain't gonna be no more division when it comes to the elect gathering together, okay. When it comes to the 12 tribes of Israel, And it says, in that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, and the angel of the Lord before them. Yeah, because we're going to have that angelic power, man. Okay, that spiritual power. Okay, once again, Israel, Yahshua, he Prince of Power. And the Lord going to display that power through his men. Okay, starting with the elect, just as back in the ancient times, David and his mighty men. And those of David cabinet or house, once again, that the Lord is about to raise up, and this time on a higher level. Okay, and it says, and it shall come to pass in that day when I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. Okay, and that's going to start with Esau, Edom, and these heathen nations. Okay, that's about to come to pass when Yahweh shall return and establish the house of David. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem, okay, the elect. And it said, the spirit of grace and supplications, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, okay, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son. And that's going to the sacrifice of Yahweh Shah, okay, because Yahweh Shah come from the bloodline of David, okay. One of his titles is the son of David, okay. And you can read that lineage, okay, or that pedigree when it comes to Matthew the 1st chapter, okay, going giving you the bloodline of Yahweh Shai, okay. And it says, and he and shall be in the bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn, okay, going to Yahweh Shai, okay, which Yahweh Shai has come back to establish the kingdom of Israel once again by default, starting with the elect, which is also known as the house of David, okay, which we know also as well, reincarnation. Yahweh Shah was Solomon in his past life, okay, one of David's son, okay, that ruled, okay, King Solomon, okay. So that's it on that. Let me see, let's get this let's get this Isaiah chapter 22 verse 21. And I will clothe him with thy robe and strengthen him with thy girdle, and I will commit thy government into his hand. And going to Yahweh Shai, okay. And he shall be a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. And the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulder, so he shall open and none shall shut. He shall shut and none shall open, going to Yahweh Shai, okay. Real gathering on the house of David, okay. So that's it on that. Let's get this. This is Psalms 122 verse 4. Where do the tribes go up? The tribes of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai, unto the testimony of Israel. And that's what we're seeing now. The Lord waking up the nation of Israel by the way of the prophets, to give thanks unto the name of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. For there are set thrones of judgment, the thrones of the house of David. Okay? Going to another way saying the elect. Let's get this, and I'll probably get ready to close. Let's get on Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 22. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel. Okay? The government or the kingdom. And one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Okay? Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgression, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places. And Lord gonna do that by the way of the chariots. Okay, Matthew the 24th chapter, verses 29 through 31. Okay, and the Lord gathered the elect by the way of the chariots, that great deliverance. Okay, by the elect being beaten up into the chariots and being changed. Okay, also that hopeful number. Okay, And and it says, when they have sinned and will cleanse them, so shall they be my people, and I will be their God. Verse 24. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgment and observe my statutes and do them. Okay? Proving that the Lord going to set up David again, okay? Which leading to the house of David, okay? The elect being set up, okay? Of course, Yahweh Shai, okay, being the head, but appointing David to be king over the rest of Israel, starting with the elect as well, okay? Being joint heirs. Like I say, the 2/3 come back in the kingdom, okay? And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, within your fathers have dwelt. Okay? And if you can receive it, Jacob was also David in his or David was Jacob also in his past life. Okay? And it say, and Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, they shall dwell therein, even they and their children, and their children's children forever. Hey, so it's even their children and their children's children. Okay, because on the elect, starting with the elect, the 1/3 they're gonna be saved on this time at this time. Okay, when it comes to the 144,000 and the 1/3 men, women, and children, they're destined to be saved. Okay, but it says the children and their children going to the 2/3 are gonna come back in the kingdom. Okay, and they're gonna possess the kingdom forever. Okay, and gonna be righteous forever. All Israel. Okay, so ain't gonna be no Israelites being thrown in hell, which that's false. Okay, a false doctrine, the hell doctrine. There ain't gonna be no Israelites being ruled over by the heathens. Okay, you got Genesis, the Israelite camp teaching that. Okay, you got IUIC, Israelite camp teaching the hell doctrine. 2/3 gonna be cut off and thrown in fire, in the everlasting fire. That's madness, man. The 2/3 gonna come back in the kingdom, being the sons and daughters of the elect. Okay, and it says, and it says, even they and their children and their children's children forever. My servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them, and there shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. And that's the kingdom of Israel. Okay, when the Lord established the kingdom of Israel, the true inheritance, okay, in the land, okay, because those people over there now, those phonies are not the true inheritors, and that land gonna be cleansed by the way of by fire, just for it to be rebuilt, okay, or reestablished, okay, through the power of Yahweh Shema Shai and the elect, okay, being the rulers, starting with the elect, okay, once again the house of David, and David leading, being appointed, okay, up under the rule of Yahweh Shema Shai, okay. So the kingdom is going to be here on the earth, and it's going to be an everlasting kingdom. And we're going to rule over these heathen nations forever, man. Okay? Starting with the first 1,000-year period, okay? And after the first 1,000-year period, the only nation that's going to be done away with are the biblical Edomites, okay? According to Obadiah 1 and 18. But after that 1,000-year period, after that, the heathen nations still going to be subject unto us, because our kingdom is going to be an everlasting kingdom, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and end the lesson here. And I pray that the lesson will edify till next time, Lord willing. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom. The house of David. Okay, as well. The house of David. Shalom.